Awesome. I'm going to try and go really fast to make up for the extra time that Juan took. So this is going to be lightning fast, but this is mostly a quick look backwards at some of the progress that we've made over the past 3 years or so. We were officially in space race this time 3 years ago, if you can think back to that stage as a Filecoin ecosystem. And so I'm going to quick recap some of the awesome stuff. And there's a little bit of a call to action around making new FIPS to help land new protocol improvements, and also things that maybe happen outside of FIPS that add new capabilities and improvements to the system. But this is mostly a fun tour down memory lane. So quick recap of some of the awesome things that we've done in the first 3 years of Filecoin being live as a community. We've built one of the largest data storage networks on the planet at about 10 exabytes of capacity. We're about the same size as Google Cloud was in the late 2000s, or 2010s, I guess, which is pretty cool. We're making progress. We still have a ways to go to meet Google Cloud and AWS as they exist today in 2023, but progress. We built one of the fastest upgrading blockchains. Like, we added Hyperdrive, which 10x'd the available chain bandwidth just in the first 8 months after mainnet launch. We have a ton of accessible chain bandwidth, and now with IPC and some of the awesome improvements coming there, we have a lot more capacity to continue working with to enable even more different infra applications. We've built the cheapest large-scale storage network in the world. Pretty freaking cool. We are now storing massive amounts of humanity's data in that as well, 1.5 exabytes, which is pretty freaking amazing. So we've achieved a lot as a community in 2023. And I'm just going to highlight very quickly 10 areas that we made those improvements. Network storage capacity, chain bandwidth, network security, upgrading the protocol, data storage, the availability and cost of storage, how hard it was to onboard as a developer, the amount of apps and tools that were accessible to folks, the amount of and scale of the ecosystem that we'd built, and the types of main participants in the Filecoin ecosystem who were kind of adopting and scaling Filecoin. We're not going to go through all of these. Again, I only have 10 minutes, but this is a quick snapshot of where we were at mainnet liftoff. So that's 2 years and 11 months ago from now, technically. Mainnet liftoff happened October 15th or something, 2020. And so not quite 3 years ago, but pretty close. And at that point, we already had 300 some storage providers providing 0.6 exabytes of capacity on the Filecoin network. This was awesome. This was way more than we'd ever expected to have at mainnet launch, which was really cool. SPs were onboarding sectors kind of at the limit of chain capacity as fast as we possibly could fit them in the network. We were constantly having super high base fees and had implemented 1559 long before Ethereum did, which is pretty cool, so that we could be scaling at that rate. We only had one implementation live on mainnet as of mainnet liftoff. Not good yet from a network security perspective. We'd just accepted and merged our first 4 FIPS. So FIP 001 through 004 were the ones that landed before mainnet liftoff. We had about 450 terabytes of data storage, 350,000 deals. Mostly this was just testing the deal flow pipeline and making sure it worked, and maybe a little bit of Slate, if anyone remembers that application that was doing kind of like a Lightroom of your PDFs and images and other fun documents. Storage cost was about, 3 nanofil, is that right? 3 centifil per gigabyte per month. We didn't have any sort of SP reputation yet. Most SPs weren't taking any sort of deals at all. And so very, very early from a storage cost and availability perspective. Onboarding as a developer was not easy. It took you something like 3 days to sync a Lotus node in order to get up and running as a developer to start building your application. We were not in a good place from a developer perspective back then. We did have a whole chunk of applications that were starting to be available on Filecoin though. We had Slate, we had Powergate, we had Glyph, if we have Jonathan Schwartz in the room, awesome. Fleek, who was storing websites and all sorts of other cool stuff on Filecoin, and also offering various different developer-focused APIs. And so we did have some application platforms, and we just actually graduated the first hackathon cohort from the first HackFS, which I think we even have some people who came out of HackFS. I think maybe Lighthouse came out of HackFS, which now exists in the world, which is pretty cool. So that was the first 100 projects building on top of Filecoin. And the main people who were participating super heavily in the Filecoin ecosystem were storage providers, and then of course, developers who are helping build the protocol. But storage providers were putting the main chunk of energy into improving things. So that's where we were at liftoff. Now, 3 years later, we have over 10 exabytes of storage. We've increased chain bandwidth by more than 20x, thanks to things like SnarkPack and sector aggregation. We have 3 mainnet implementations. Venus and Forest are both live on mainnet and helping secure the network. We have over 75 FIPS, which is awesome, from 40 plus authors. So we have pretty decent author decentralization there as well. Still room to go, but definitely doing lots of Filecoin upgrades. Data storage, we're now at 1.5 exabytes. So we're gone from 400 terabytes to 1.5 exabytes. Huge, we're skipping petabytes there and going straight to exabytes. Pretty amazing. 90 million NFTs call Filecoin their home for data storage. We now have reputable storage. We have reputation systems. We have indexing. We have retrievable storage. We have retrieval checking. And a lot of that storage is free. The vast majority of data that's onboarding through things like Phil Plus is very, very low cost, helping attract major clients that are comparing Filecoin to other ecosystems and choosing to come here because it's lower cost for them. We have lots of tooling around helping the developer and data onboarding flows, things like FVM, Web3.storage, and lots of other of tooling for developers. We also have tons of different applications. We have MetaMask. We have all of the DeFi ecosystem. We've got Ledger. We've got lots of other fun apps and tools. Tons of ecosystem momentum. There's hackathons happening all the time. According to DeFi Llama, we're 32 right now in the FVM ecosystem, which is cool, one of my favorite numbers. And then we've onboarded, from an adopter perspective, tons of data storage clients and tons of FVM builders, which is fantastic, like helping us continue to grow the Filecoin community. But more importantly, looking to the future, we have to continue making all of this way, way, way better. We need to make there's a number of improvements happening right now around making onboarding cheaper, and as Juan was mentioning in his talk, using regional storage and subnets to help onboard data in a much more scalable, hierarchical manner. Effectively getting infinite chain capacity for data onboarding through these regional subnets. I think there's some really interesting work happening from a network security perspective around Rust clients or like clients that could really help scale access to Filecoin mainnet or chain data. I'm hoping that we have hundreds of FIP authors in the next 6 months. We are at 40 right now. I think we can double that in terms of, helping everyone here who hasn't written a FIP yet help take and steward some major improvement to Filecoin through the FIP process, so that we have, hundreds of FIPs helping improve Filecoin. We're talking about zettabytes if we're hitting some of those targets from Juan of data stored in the Filecoin ecosystem. A lot of work to do to get there, but that's a sort of scale that we're going for, and a lot of other things which I'm going to not talk about because I don't have enough time. This is going to be fast. I'm just going to show you a quick overview of all of the FIPs that have launched in the network since the early days. What are FIPs? This is the main mechanism for any consensus-critical improvement to the Filecoin protocol. This is where we document, spec out, talk about the motivation, and discuss as a community a coordinated upgrade to Filecoin that implements across all of the different implementations or into the core Filecoin actors. We have submitted over 75 of these. There's also, I went through and I counted all of the FIP discussions, over 280 FIP discussions, and that's only since we implemented the GitHub FIP discussions process. We were doing something else before GitHub discussions existed, so a lot of awesome FIP ideas out there. And we've implemented a ton of them. We mentioned we had the first 4. What is the FIP process? making sure that if you miss one window post, you don't immediately get super slashed and then start falling into debt. That was FIP number 2. It was a very important one. We figured that one out during Space Race. Filecoin Plus, and then also there was a thing around unlocking some amount of block reward after you committed your first sector and it was live in the network for 24 hours or something like that. So those all happened during the Space Race process as we were figuring out and making improvements as a community to a live system to actually make Filecoin better. In Q4 of 2020, so post mainnet, so it's October 15th or something through end of year, we had another 4 FIPs. This included, I believe, this included some major, we both had a chain halt. I don't think that resulted in a FIP, but we did have the POREP, or not, the proof v2, which, or v1.1 technically, which landed and was able to help make sure that we were fixing bugs in the proof system in real time. We did optimistic window post, which took a ton of window posts off chain. This was our hyperdrive upgrade that did aggregating sectors, being able to unlock this 20x increase in chain capacity. Snap deals, which we now have over 1.5 million snap deals in the past year, which is pretty cool. We only have data for the past year, so I actually have no idea how many snap deals we've had total because I don't have that data history, but cool to see those helping bring storage into the network faster. We have Filecoin M1 and M2, which did first the kind of like core foundation of the FVM runtime and then unlocked user programmability. The Shark network upgrade had the first fungible token contract being used for data cap for helping distribute that more effectively and efficiently. We had Lightning and Thunder, which happened earlier this year, which was actually expedited, thank you, not exabyted. That would make a lot of sense as well, though, to make sure that we were improving kind of like block time and cron usage, which helped relieve a lot of issues that people were seeing in the network at the time. We've also had our first set of FRCs, requests for comment. These are, instead of a protocol improvement that goes live in a network upgrade, this sets a standard that allows different groups to interoperate with each other. So we've had 4 of those so far, which is pretty useful, and a lot of things around the deal market and content discovery. And then we have NV20, right? 21? No, my bad. NV21 upcoming with a whole set of features that's going live in November. And so kind of call to action. There's a lot of areas for improvement here to keep adding new FIPs to make Filecoin a lot better. Things around storage operations, fast finality, enabling L2s and L3s for things like compute, retrieval, databases, et cetera. New FVM runtimes, like WASM compiler-based runtimes, and many more. So if you want help making your thing a FIP that helps improve Filecoin, there's a lot of people here who are available. If you have been an author on a FIP so far, raise your hand. These are your buddies. Go talk to some of those people, and they can help you get your FIP defined and drafted so that the community can comment on them. I just wanted to give a quick shout out as well, because I felt like this maybe overemphasized the FIP related improvements, but there's also a ton of improvements that happened outside the FIP process. Overall, just like upgrades that weren't FIP based. And so there's been a ton of things launched in the last 3 years that aren't just FIP related. Network Indexer, Saturn L1s, Sealing as a Service, Boost, Slingshot, compute over data MVPs, and a lot of Lassie, like many other tools and applications. And many of these don't actually go through the FIP process, but they are critical for upgrading Filecoin. And there's a lot still to come. And so if you have more awesome things, I would love to partner with you to build kind of a 2024 view of all of the exciting things that are coming for the Filecoin ecosystem and community, so that we can get that overall view of our milestones, celebrate them, and track their progress. So if you want to talk about this, come talk to me.